I was looking at a bowl of rice earlier today, just part of my lunch, and it got me thinking about the sheer scale of it. I mean, it's the bedrock for what, half the world's calories?
Half the planet, yeah.
Yeah.
It's easy to take for granted.
But then I started going through our briefing materials for today, specifically on Thailand, and that simple bowl of jasmine rice started to look a whole lot more complicated.
It's that classic invisible price tag, isn't it?
Yeah.
You see the price at the store, we feel the inflation, but we almost never see the climate cost.
And with rice, that cost it's surprisingly heavy.
It really is.
And that's what we're unpacking today. We're doing a deep dive into what is, well, basically an agricultural revolution happening right now in the paddies of Thailand.
It's this amazing collision of one of the world's oldest professions with satellite tech and carbon markets.
Right. We're looking at how traditional farmers are becoming, in a way, climate warriors.
And it's key to remember, they're not just doing it out of the goodness of their hearts. They're doing it because the market is finally starting to create an incentive for it.
So our source material today comes from a seminar, very plainly titled, How to Farm to Get Carbon Credits.
I like the directness.
Me too. It features data from Thailand's environmental agencies, the Thailand Greenhouse Gas Management Organization, we'll call them the TGO, and some really fascinating stuff from a private tech company called Spiro Carbon.
So we've got the government policy side and the on-the-ground tech side. It's a good mix.
Okay, so to set the stakes, let's start with the global picture. The source from the Office of Natural Resources puts a really fine point on it. We all know the world is warming, but they cite a specific number.
The 1.09 degrees Celsius rise.
Exactly, between 2011 and 2020 compared to the pre-industrial era.
And 1.09 degrees, I mean, it sounds like nothing when you're adjusting the thermostat, right? But on a planetary scale, that is the nice edge between some kind of stability and chaos.
And the source material really breaks down what's driving that heat. We talk about CO2 constantly.
All the time.
But methane. Methane is the silent accelerator here. The data showed concentrations are up 156%.
That is a staggering number. And the thing about methane is, unlike CO2, which hangs around for centuries, methane is this incredibly potent short-term heat trapper.
It's like throwing lighter fluid on the fire versus a solid log.
That's a great analogy. It burns hot and fast. So if you want to slam the brakes on warming now, cutting methane is your most powerful lever.
Which brings us to Thailand. I was looking at their 2019 emissions profile. The energy sector, no surprise, is the big one, about 70%.
That's pretty standard for most economies.
But the runner-up is agriculture at 15%.
And that 15% is where this whole story gets interesting.
Right, because you slice open that 15% pie, and you'd expect, livestock to be the main thing.
Livestock, machinery, something like that.
But no, rice farming alone, it's responsible for 50.58% of the country's entire agricultural emissions.
Over half, just from rice.
It's a huge paradox for Thailand, isn't it? It's a cornerstone of their economy and culture, but it's also a primary engine of their own climate problem.
So the question becomes, mechanically, how is a field of what is essentially wet dirt generating that much gas?
I dug into this because it does seem a little counterintuitive, and it all comes down to the water. Traditional farming just submerges the land, right? The fields are kept flooded for the whole season.
And that creates an anaerobic environment. You put that layer of water on top, you seal the soil off from the air, oxygen can't get in.
Okay.
And that creates a perfect playground for these little microbes, methanogens, that thrive without oxygen. They just sit there munching on organic matter in the soil.
And the byproduct is methane.
Pure methane. So, in effect, we've built millions of hectares of open-air methane factories.
Wow. And for decades, that was just the cost of doing business.
Exactly. But now, with these big climate goals, like Thailand aiming for carbon neutrality, you can't ignore that massive slice of the pie anymore.
And this is where the revolution part of the story comes in. The solution being proposed isn't some crazy high-tech GMO seed. It's just a change in technique.
It's called alternate wetting and drying, or AWD. And it's beautiful because it targets the root cause, the anaerobic conditions.
So the idea is you stop flooding the field all the time.
Right. You flood it, you let the water sink in until the soil is just moist, not submerged.
I think I saw a figure, something like letting the water level drop to 15 centimeters below the surface.
Yeah, something like that. And then, only then, you flood it again. You create a cycle.
By letting it dry out, you're letting oxygen back into the soil.
And as soon as oxygen gets in, the methane-producing bacteria just shut down. You're basically flipping a switch off for big chunk of the growing season.
And the numbers on this are wild. The source claims this one change can cut methane emissions by over 50%.
Which is a massive return on investment for, just changing when you open a water gate.
Okay, but I have to be the skeptic here. If it's that easy, and it obviously saves water, why isn't every single farmer already doing it?
That's the human element. The briefing really hit on this mindset barrier. For generations, the wisdom has been flooding is safety.
Which makes sense. If you have standing water, you're suppressing weeds because they can't grow underwater.
And you're insulated against a sudden dry spell or a heat wave. That water in the field is like money in the bank. It feels secure.
So telling a farmer to intentionally drain their field, it must feel like a huge unnecessary risk.
Exactly. Moving from flooding is safety to drying is profitable, that takes more than just a pamphlet. It takes a real tangible incentive.
And that leads us perfectly into the money side of this. The whole point of the seminar was how to farm to get carbon credits. So let's talk about the TVER program.
TVER, the Thailand Voluntary Emission Reduction Program, set up by the TGO back in 2014.
And that word voluntary is really important, isn't it?
It's crucial. This isn't a carbon tax. Thailand isn't forcing farmers to do this, not yet anyway. They're building a market where sectors that can't easily cut their own emissions.
Like a big factory.
Right, a factory can pay a sector that can cut emissions easily, like a farmer, to do it for them. The farmer sells them a carbon credit.
I want to look at the actual numbers here from fiscal year 2023. This is where we see if the market is, real. The data shows over 2 million tons of CO2 equivalent were traded.
Which, for developing voluntary market, is a pretty healthy volume.
And the total value was about 154 million baht. But here's the number that jumped out at me. The average price was about 74.95 baht per ton.
Okay, so let's be real. 75 baht is what, $2 US? A little more?
Yeah, roughly. So a farmer reduces emissions by a few tons. They're not getting rich off of that.
No. That is not buying a new pickup truck.
That was my exact thought. The paperwork alone, the administrative burden of registering a project, getting it verified, it seems like the profit margin would be tiny for a payout of 75 baht a ton.
It's a valid criticism of these early stage markets. Now, that price is negotiated, it can be higher, but the bigger problem, and the seminar really dove into this, is trust.
Verification.
Right. If I'm a company buying 10,000 tons of credits, how do I know those farmers actually drain their fields? How do I know they didn't just get nervous about weeds and flood them anyway?
You can't send an army of auditors in suits out to wade through every rice paddy in Thailand.
The cost would be insane. It would destroy the whole business model.
And this is where the tech comes in. This is where David Rockwood from Spiro Carbon presented their solution.
This is the tech meets tradition part. They're basically solving the verification problem from space.
Satellites. I was reading about their method, and it is pretty brilliant. They use different kinds of radar and spectral analysis to actually measure the moisture content of the soil from orbit.
So they can literally see on a massive scale which fields are wet and which are dry. It gets around the need for a physical inspector.
It's the eye in the sky. But what I think is really smart is they don't only rely on the satellite.
The ground truthing.
Yes. They have a mobile app that the farmers themselves use. They have to take timestamp photos of these little water measuring pipes in their fields to document the water level.
So you get this double verification loop. The satellite gives you the big picture. Yes, this entire region is following the protocol. And the farmer's app gives you the specific proof. My specific field is dry right now.
And that creates what they call a high-quality credit, which, in theory, should sell for more than that 75 baht average.
It builds that trust and that audit trail automatically.
Okay, so we have the method, which is AWD. We have the market, TVER. We have the verification, Spiro's tech.
Yeah.
But I still come back to the money. Is even 100 baht a ton enough to change a habit that's been around for 1,000 years?
And if that's all it was, just the carbon money, I'd say no. I'd be skeptical. But this is the real kicker that the seminar brought out. The carbon credit is actually just the cherry on top.
The co-benefits.
The co-benefits. The real money for the farmer comes from the savings on the farm itself.
This is where the numbers get really, really compelling. Spiro Carbon's data showed that using this AWD method reduces water usage by 25 to 40%.
In a world with increasing droughts, that's not just a cost saving, that's risk management.
But then look at the inputs, the fertilizer numbers. They just blew me away. Chemical fertilizer use drops by 50%.
50%. And fertilizer prices have been going through the roof globally. cutting that bill in half is pure profit.
And there's a biological reason for that, right? When the soil gets that oxygen, it actually improves nutrient uptake. The plant just uses the fertilizer more efficiently.
Exactly. You're not just washing it all away. And then there was the stat on general chemical use.
Down by 70 to 100%.
I mean, think about that. You're attacking the climate problem from the methane angle and the nitrous oxide angle from fertilizer, and at the same time, you're slashing the farmer's biggest expenses.
So the real sales pitch to the farmer isn't, hey, do this to save the planet and maybe earn a couple bucks.
Yep.
The pitch is, do this to cut your operating costs by a third or more. And oh, by the way, here's a little bonus check from the carbon market.
That is the only way this gets to scale. It has to be an economic win for the farmer first and an environmental win second. The carbon credit is the catalyst. It brings in the tech and the training, but the input savings.
Yeah.
That's what makes it stick.
It just completely flips the script on going green being some kind of expensive luxury. Here, sustainability is actually cheaper.
Which is how it should be.
So let's zoom out as we wrap up. The timeline mentioned in the sources is, well, it's tight. They said Thailand's emissions are expected to peak in 2025.
That's basically tomorrow. We are in the critical window right now. These kinds of interventions have to hit a critical mass almost immediately.
The agricultural sector really has to pull its weight because decarbonizing energy and industry is slow and incredibly expensive. This is comparatively a quick win.
It really is. It totally changes the role of the farmer, doesn't it? Yeah. They're not just producing food anymore. They're managing the atmosphere.
With a smartphone in one hand and a water sluice in the other, it's an incredible image.
Ancient wisdom meets modern necessity.
It just leaves me wondering, if we can optimize a rice paddy from orbit to save the farmer money and help save the planet, what other traditional, maybe overlooked parts of our economy are just waiting for a similar kind of tech-enabled climate overhaul?
That is the trillion-dollar question, isn't it?
Something to think about next time you see a bag of jasmine rice at the store. That grain has a story. And it seems like it's becoming a much cleaner one. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
My pleasure.